Pim, the number one question I have here is a question which, when I posed to the minister mentor some years ago, he ducked, which is, what advice would you give the Indian Prime Minister to accelerate India's growth? And he said, I couldn't advise anybody on India, your country is not governable.
I won't say that. I'd say I can't advise the Prime Minister of India. He knows more about this than me.
PM, the reverse flow.
No, but from our point of view, as a country which wishes India well and which hopes India will play a role in the region, the domestic matters, your leadership knows as well as anybody else. But what we would like to see from our point of view, sitting outside, is that India is able to spare the bandwidth and the focus in order to extend your reach, your influence, your engagement with the region, and benefit from it, whether it's with ASEAN, through an India and ASEAN free trade agreement, whether it's in the East Asia Summit, whether it's in the what we call the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which is an FTA which we are negotiating with ASEAN as well as the Northeast Asian countries as well as Australia and New Zealand, or whether it's in the WTO. Find the bandwidth to engage, to identify the opportunities to cultivate the partners, and therefore to take full advantage of this as you grow.
PM, the economics aside, the geopolitics of the region, East Asia, have been getting interesting with China increasingly expressing not only its economic but military might. And so South China Sea, Japan, there have been issues. As India also builds out its deep sea navy, etc., do you think in a geopolitical sense there's space for India in this part of the world?
Well, the Pacific is a big place. And the Chinese have said it's big enough for the Chinese and the Americans together. So I would take that a step forward and say it's big enough even for other participants as well. The Russians have historically been there during the Cold War. India, I think your focus has been mostly on the subcontinent. There will be some interest in engaging in a friendly way with countries in East Asia. From time to time we get friendly naval missions which come and make port calls in Singapore and beyond. But I think that you're not seeking to make a claim in the South China Sea. So I don't see that there's a collision there, but that you can make a constructive contribution. I think that is very much true, and I hope it will be done.
Pim, shifting gears a bit, I have several questions here which are sort of in line with what I was planning to talk to you about as well, but Singapore. So there's a lot of questions about where does Singapore go from here? You talked about a lot of stuff about change and how Singapore needs to change. So the questions principally around what is Singapore has constantly reinvented itself to keep itself relevant and keep ahead in the changing world. How do you see Singapore shaping itself in the next 10 years?
Oh, you should watch my National Day rally. A lot of things can happen in 10 years. We know that there are certain physical limits. I mean, our international boundaries are mostly fixed. So even if I reclaim more land from the sea, it means I have less sea and more land. There exist some physical constraints, but I think there are no constraints on your imagination and your creativity. And I don't accept for a moment that we have done everything that we can do in Singapore. We have an economy which is thriving. I think we have good systems, whether it's education, whether it's transport, whether it's housing. But at the limit, we are not at the limit. You can redevelop, you can upgrade, you can change the way you're operating, you can take full advantage of technologies existing and technologies yet to be invented. And in 10 years, you don't know what the new possibilities will be. But I think that we can be faster than other countries in seizing them and in adapting ourselves to them. It's discomforting for our people to have change happen fast. There will be population. Our population is aging. We have to take care of our old folks and give them assurance and security. But the purpose of life is not assurance and security. The purpose of life is to use that security in order to go and achieve something new and different and do better than the people who came before you. I mean, that's why you go to business school. Because you think you can do better and you can do the business better, and actually it's not just that you will make more money in the business, but you believe that you will come up with a service or a product or an idea which will change the world. That's what you dream of.
In the short term, the process of change can be uncomfortable. And therefore, as we're trying to increase productivity in the country, trying to change the paradigm for what we want to grow, the old model of bring in MNCs, first world infrastructure, bring in a lot of talent, grow, we're trying to shift away from the model. It's creating a lot of discomfort. SMEs, ability to grow, some industries.
Yeah. So you have to strike a balance. We have to help the incumbents to make the change, even as we bring in and allow in transformations which will perhaps alter the game altogether. Some things you can do. I mean, if you need help to get an IT system going, if you need help to train your workers, you need courses organized, we can arrange that. If you need help to come together so that you can have the critical mass and operate more efficiently, we can do that. If you have a new idea but you don't have the lab to refine it and to bring it to a state of being produced and marketed, well, we can help you to do that. You have to generate the idea yourself. Those things we can do. But the pace of change is not completely determined by us. You look at Lyft, L-Y-F-T, or Uber. It's causing grave consternation around the world. It's a simple idea. You have an app. You have a way to assure service quality. You have a different pricing model. And people take that in preference to taxis, even though it's often more expensive. But it's better service, and you know what you're getting, and you get it when you need it. Seems to be a good thing, and yet it's generated such enormous concern, lawsuits in Berlin, and strikes in Paris, demonstrations in Australia, and now Uber has hired Barack Obama's chief campaign manager, so as to navigate the politics and so that they can play in the regulatory realm. Because in the economic realm, they will win, but in the regulatory realm, they have to adapt and fit in. And it's going to happen to us. Uber is here. We have other taxi booking apps in Singapore, like Grab Taxi. It's going to change the industry. And I think we have to help the incumbents in order to enable them to operate, to compete, in order to make sure that there's a fair playing field, and to make sure that we get to a better place or put it the other way, to make sure that we don't get held back and prevented from getting to a better place because it's too painful for the incumbents. And it's not easy to do, but I think we know what we have to do.
Thank you, Piyush. I have a question here which says Singapore is a great example of multiculturalism. So what are the challenges of maintaining this harmony while encouraging development of Singapore as a global city? I'm going to add to that, this thing. So in the past, our whole issue of getting the multicultural thing to work was the Chinese, Malay, Indian populations and so on. Increasingly, we have many other expatriate populations, including within the Indian diaspora, the new Indians and the old Indians.
Yes.
Right? How do we actually make this work in a constructive way? And frankly, what advice do you have for many of the people in this room, many of whom are new Indians? on what they could do better to integrate and be part of our One Singapore?
Well, it's a challenge which every global city faces. We feel that it's happening to us quickly, but if you go to London, they feel the same. In fact, in London, non-British-born people exceed British-born people if you just take a narrow boundary of London. I think if you go to New York, you'll find it's an extremely cosmopolitan area. And somehow the people who have come from all over the world have to be able to work and live with one another and also fit in with the people who are natives, who have been here and who are citizens here. So part of it is pace, part of it is the mix. We have to manage the speed at which it's happening. We have to make sure that the mix is balanced. And as you point out, new Indians who come here to work are different from Indians who have grown up in Singapore, who have that multicultural experience of the Singapore multiculturalism. And therefore, there are sensitivities which you tread on, if you're not careful, you run into problems. And we have to learn and have time to adapt. But both sides have to make the effort. Those who come have to make the effort to fit in, to participate in the society. Those who are here, Singaporeans, at the same time, we have to understand that, well, these are new arrivals and we must help them to fit in to what is quite likely not such a straightforward adjustment for them also. So it's on both sides. I think a good number of new arrivals from the subcontinent do participate actively in our activities. For example, in Sinda, there are many volunteers who are doing who participate in the reading groups and help kids to read. In our grassroots, there are quite a number who participate actively. I had an event at my own community center a few months ago, and I was happy to see some of the groups, immigrant group associations coming and participating with us and putting up dances, including the dances of the people with the big skirts from Andhra Pradesh. Prime Minister, the Chief Minister is here, from Telangana, so I think I should mention that. So I think you make the effort, but it's not easy. Our culture is different. In Singapore, over the years, because we've been here so long, I think caste has become not so conspicuous amongst Singaporeans. Amongst new arrivals, I'm not sure that that transition has taken place yet. So when you are in a temple, on a committee, or even in a temple in the congregation, these are factors which can become sensitive. And you have to know about them, and we have to be able to speak candidly enough about them, comfortably and candidly, so that we can address them and gradually massage them away.
There's a flock of questions which are a similar theme, which is an extension of what you were just saying. So how do you think IIM Alumni can help in taking Singapore-India relationship forward? How can the IIM Alumni play a bigger role in integrating itself in Singapore? And also one which I actually asked Chuanpo from A-Star today. Given so many Indians have been central to the growth of Silicon Valley, or the IIT, is there an opportunity for us in our efforts to also leverage some of that, Indian technology talent and math talent in Singapore? But in general, do you see a bigger role that the IIM alumni diaspora can play?
Well, I think we would like you to be good corporate citizens, but you have influence as a diaspora, or rather you have influence as an alumni, and you are able to organize yourself. And I think if you can link us up to the network worldwide in New York or London or Sydney or Zurich, I think that you will help us to prosper all over the world.